about 60 days left. We would have grazed this in March, and it was stockpile, and we grazed it, so it wasn't grazed all winter long, and we came back here in March and just did it lightly. And being careful not to take off a whole lot of this growth. If you knew this was coming out, we were in a dry period, and so we wanted to make sure we kept the sun out of the corner. But we were all going to go back. So basically what we're trying to do here folks, is to make sure we came back, the plant tip is fully regrowing. When we came back, all the plant tips were squared. On the end, we came back to square. So all that said, hey, a little longer. I'm not turned out, we could have slowed them up. So what we did is we just cleaned the top. And if we have found just cleaning the top of our grass, it just grows back so much quicker because it has a larger soil collector impact. It catches more plants. It's that simple. Is it open again? Oh, it is. Okay.
There we go.
All right, don't move. You can see the cows still have some winter hair coat. What we have found out is the older cows, maybe 2 years and older, are usually the first cows to shed off the winter hair coat. I think we're guys yeah, so we've got new calves being born now every day. I think we're at about 65 to 70 new ones. There's around 130 females in here. And then you got all your yearlings like this little girl here on the front. She'll be exposed to a bull in July. This one right here, just walking away from us. There's also 32 yearling steers in there. They were clamped back in March, and we just kicked them right back onto the cows. And their testicles, of course, dried up, and they've long since fallen off. And those are sold. So folks, we're in a drought. And we haven't had any rain for a few months, so I'm a very conservative-minded fella. I don't want to run out of grass. I made a phone call, well, I put that video up. You know, anybody watches YouTube. And they sold in 12 hours. Got them all sold. All the steers are gone like that. And so those steers are going to be loaded on Tuesday morning. So I took 32 head off my farm, plus we got rid of all the bulls June 1st. So we've decreased our stocking rate by a third, basically. Not quite a third, let's say 25%. And where's Ian at? Ian, I want you to talk about, as soon as I told you that last night, you're talking about you could destock up to what percent?
You cannot sell a pregnant cow in a drought. Nobody wants that. So 40% of the livestock should be able to be culled at any time, and the price you get at that time is the best price, so sell it. What am I talking about? Do you buy back your own steers and run them as 20%? Say that those are the first to go going into a dry spell. Dry spells are only determined by the amount of rainfall you are having. So you're writing in on your grazing chart how many inches of rain. Oops, we're running short. We're going to be short on grass down the road because we haven't had the rain. You start marketing. Everybody I have visited this year have run into problems because they did not sell last year when they should have sold. So this year, lucky for them, the prices have gone up. They are getting incredible prices, but they've got no cost left in their property.
steers are to the weight that we're selling, which we'll find out when we weigh them. So the truck is going to come to our farm. He's going to go across scales up here at Clark, empty, put them on, and when he leaves, I get a full weight. Whatever that difference is, I get a check for the top average. So this is not number twos. Folks, you all know what number ones and twos are? There's a big difference in price. So your number ones, what I'm getting paid for is the very best big old black steer. That's what a number one is. That's what sells the highest at the sale barn. So these red cattle, I'm not taking the red dot. I'm getting a black steer price, the best steers available. That's what I'm getting. So it's a premium. I'm not paying the sales commission. I'm not paying the trucking. There's no vet. There's no yardage, and there's no beef checkup.
And there's no shrink.
And there's no shrink. Nope. Well, the only shrink would be from here to Clark.
That's right.
Yeah, 5 miles.
No pencil shrink?
Similar deal, and it's
What's that?
No pencil shrink.
No pencil shrink. Folks, here's the other one. It's an aluminum trailer. That pea's not leaving. He weighed. I'm getting paid for that pea. It's state, and you think about that.
that don't last up.
8 pounds to the gallon. You're getting paid for that.
So you order them before you ship them.
No. I knew an old guy. He would feed them salt. He'd salt them real heavy the night before he sold them. They go and just drink, and that's kind of cheap. No, I'm not going to do that. You can mistreat people once, but shame on you. You get into practice of doing that, and it's going to catch up. Be honest. Do the best you can. Persevere for me.
Dad weighed on the way to the sale barn one year, and it was on a one-day deal. He hauled in the morning. The next morning the sale weighed 63 pounds a head.
They lost that much, 63.
And had to pay for feed,
Yeah.
which they didn't get.
The yardage, right? Yep.
Right.
Yep. Folks, I
So,
don't have anything against sale barns. It's a great place to take cull animals. I wouldn't recommend that's your end market. Try and build a direct market. We're going to talk more about that later. Look at those cows out there. Do they look pretty content? You ain't screaming at us? Not very many cows out there following the food. They've got their heads down.
What's the numbering system for your ear tag?
Let me get you, then I'll get you. The numbering system for the ear tag, the first number in the ear is the year. The second number is, let's just say it's a 301. So 3 would be 2023. 01 would be the first calf born in 01. And then it's 02, 03. We just number them from that. We keep a calving chart. Isaac has got a calving, well, all the boys have got calving charts. We record the cow's ear tag number and correspond it back to the calf. Now, we didn't used to do that. We didn't even tag. And it was an unbelievable wreck. And the reason it was a wreck was we do cattle driving. We're moving from this farm clear back to Judy Farm, which is 3 miles from here. We make a cattle drive, and sure enough, 10 minutes, there's a cow. She's bumping along. There's Junior's back here, laying under a bush. We didn't know it. But now we have these. In the daytime, we write down the last 8 calves that have been born. You write down their tag number. It's the last 8. Find them. Don't do a cattle drive until you find them all You're good. We don't go back anymore and find lost calves. We just don't have them. So that's a huge advantage of tagging them. We don't tag on the day they're born. We tag on the second day they're born. Because I've walked out there on a newborn first calf mama, stuck the tag in the ear, and she was licking it. She was licking that calf. When I walked up there, she moved back to the cow mob. When I got back away, but she didn't come back. She wouldn't come back. I went and got her and put her in the garden back. She wouldn't take that calf. I broke that bonding deal. Stay away from them. You can catch the calf on the second day. Maybe not the third, but you can catch it on the second day. But no, you get calves that are hurt like that, folks. They're simple to catch. You just get them in a bunch of cows, you walk up, hit the calf, cow walks, grab the calf. Yeah, we put a tag in them. We do spray the tag with iodine. It just seems like it does kind of keep down on infection on the ear. Because you're making a wound. If you're making a wound in that ear, you stick that right. So we started double tagging them, because invariably you're going to lose a tag. And now you know, now you don't know which one it is. So you put 2 tags in, you're backed up by having a tag. The backup.
Do you have a brand of tags, Greg, you can recommend?
Y-Tech.
White tag? Okay.
I like Y-Tech. They seem to do pretty good. And Roy, where are you at? You had a question?
Yeah, so the size of the area that the boys just gave them to graze,
Yes. The size of it?
the size, I mean, how long are you leaving them there?
We're gonna take that wire up here probably in about 10 minutes.
And is that,
So then this is for how long?
Now, see, there's this strip all the way across there. So they're just gonna roll that up. That's what they're gonna get right now. And tonight, the boys will come back and give them this, right here. And this will be opened up because they can go in that parking area up there. Folks, I graze every square inch of our farm, except for my immediate yard, and my wife won't let me do flowers.
Yeah, that's they were.
I'd love to just sit out on the patio and let the cows graze the yard, but they'd be hard on the flowers.
Is this about 1,000,000 pounds, or what was it per acre?
There's acre is 209 by 209. That's maybe not 209. It's pretty close to an acre. Yeah, there's 290. There's 290 yearlings and cows. And then there's 60 spring calves. But you see, well, you can't count the calves. They don't work.
But I come in here and tell you what I see, otherwise I'm not getting. So as an inclusion zone, that is too big. The density is not high enough. So secondly, we must talk about body language. As those cattle came through the gate, they're full on the left hand side, they're sticking off, the heads are held high, the eyes are bright, the ears are in the right place. Everything about body language is correct. So you judge that and you try and look at it from the left hand side to make sure she's full. And then you move forward and say, now she's run past me, what does the tail look like? So the tail here, there's some tails that are a bit wet, and we would rather they weren't wet to be perfect. So once and only once on the first graze in the year, you might do better by putting a bale out there to tighten, and it's a colloquial term, the food going through the stomach. In actual fact, what you're doing, you're giving it oxygen. So oxygen is brown, hydrogen is energy, true energy, it sends rockets to the moon, and protein you require from the grass. So these animals are short of oxygen. Brown material, you look down, there's not enough brown here. So bale in there, and this is a perfect situation, would be perfect. I'm not being critical of Greg.
Hey, do you mind kind of summarizing that again as far as
I
what
just
to look
summarized it,
for?
I can't make it shorter.
sort of.
Basically, put a bale there, they would look better. They might have slicked off more because the ration is balanced. Oxygen, hydrogen, and protein. So if I'm wanting 2 kgs, and the guys I know on the number acre, but I talk about kgs, 2 kgs a day growth, I need 40.5% oxygen, 6.9% hydrogen, and 12% protein. I promise you, I will get 2 kgs a day growth. That's how simple it is. It's a balance. And please, Greg, I'm not being critical. So you come in and you look at Greg's pasture before the cattle went in, and there's some yellow plants. Is that desirable? Preferably not. But Greg's holistic goal is not my holistic goal. So tighter densities would have done these pastures a lot of good. But then densities, with the amount of ground he's managing, are not possible. So you've got to win. What are you going to do? You've got to write one off against the other, which is more preferable. Greg has decided to just touch the grasses and leave the rest, and that's part of his holistic goal.
How many more cows would you add to that area?
Sorry?
Like, how many more cows would you add? Like, if that's not dense enough, what is the goal?
I would triple the cows.
Triple?
Wow.
Triple the density for inclusion zone.
Gotcha.
So basically, while we're standing here, probably an hour, everything would be trampled and go out. I promise you, that paddock will yield something different from this one. There'll be no yellow plants. Remember, yellow plants indicate anaerobic soils. Everything would be aerobic. You would have no green spots in the pasture. It would be all dark green. Your choice.
You said the brown is indicative of the oxygen, so is green indicative of the hydrogen and additional protein?
Hydrogen and protein. Hydrogen's on the top of the grass. Watch the animals. One bite, and they stop. So animals came in, they ran. They were a bit short of hydrogen. They're eating the top. As they eat the top and they stop grazing, they've balanced the diet. Oxygen, hydrogen, and protein. Yes, sir.
And so you're saying the more brown material, basically they're getting too high, it's too rich, too much protein, which is causing the backside issue.
Correct.
Will that subside if he keeps it the way it is? Will that subside at some point?
As the grass matures going into summer, it will subside.
Okay.
More of these grasses with what Greg is doing will be more fibrous, and there will be a little more seed in here, and the grasses will have more fiber. Sorry, there's another one over there. Yes, then I'll be with you now.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the goal of keeping the grass vegetated, and I'm wondering if we could employ the higher stock density more in the wintertime to use more of the forage and maybe on dry cows, and then move them faster in the spring to keep it vegetated. Or does the high density, does it need to be in the summer for it to work, or can it also work in the winter?
I don't know what your holistic goal is, but I'll go back to what you've asked, and I'll try and explain it. You can't overgraze grass that's not growing. So once the first frost is laid down, you can't overgraze perennials. So if you want it all on the ground, high density, fast move would achieve the job. So if you go around, and I like to graze non-growing grass but stockpile in the winter, I like to graze with a 90-day recovery period. Okay? So we work out what days stay am I going to put in this paddock. So it is size of paddock times recovery period, which in winter I like a 90-day recovery period. So we're talking about a 180-day non-growing season. I'm taking half of that. It's a haystack. It's my stockpile. I want them to eat the best grass in the stockpile in the first 90 days because the bacteria and the rumen working on that grass is good bacteria. And so we use that good bacteria all the way around the property we have before we drop to the next best bacteria to eat the second selection on our haystack. And that'll make the end of winter with the number of hectares or acres you've got. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, and just a follow-up question. Does the high density impact need to happen every year, or will the
In
difference...
winter, no.
Okay.
You do it when you need to, when you want to. Yes, sir.
So I feel like we're choosing between eating the grasses when they're like the perfect stage of like not being mature versus stocking density. So a lot of people probably have too much land because they don't have enough animals to do the stocking density.
So all properties, you heard me say wherever I go in the world, people only stock at 50% what their forefathers used to stock the same property.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go on to a conventional grazer, I say to him, you must identify the best part of your property. Take the best half and implement your grazing plan to achieve your holistic goal. So what have I just told him? For time and money spent, he's going to get the highest return for time and money spent because it's his best ground. It will get him to be able to keep more livestock and gradually take in more paddocks and ultimately make more money but keep it in a vegetative state.
Gotcha.
If he decides not to do that, he can lease out the ground he's not using for cash flow. Cash flow is important, more important than cattle numbers. If you haven't got cash flow, you're going to go under.
Now, you were talking about how if you would give them some hay right now, it would help with their stool. Do you find that if you give them the option, let's say they were in this entire paddock, will they self-regulate and eat the amount of hay they need? Or do you have to force them on the hay?
No, they'll go and pitch it.
They will.
Following up on her question, is there an ideal time of the year, depending on the rainfall cycle, to conduct high density exercise?
No, it depends on your holistic goal, what you want to achieve, and what your pasture looks like. So ongoing monitoring in terms of trample against graze. So if I go into a new property and it hasn't been grazed and there's a lot of moribund old grass in there, I'll go in with a 30-day recovery period or even a 25-day recovery period at high density to wake the soil up. We'll go through quickly over the whole property. I'll then extend it to a 50-day recovery period because the new grass coming through is going to be all powerful. The soil life has been woken up. The new grass is coming through, highly nutritious. Graze it accordingly. Cattle performance, animal performance comes first. And that's what I do. So you manipulate and monitor depending on what you want to achieve.
But it'd be no different if we stage it right before, like in Arizona, the monsoon season. Like it would be the same if we did it at the beginning of the drought leg in Arizona.
No, in the drought leg you haven't got much activity going on in the soil, so it is different. When there is moisture, you get more reaction.
So there is a strategic time in the year to do. Okay.
Do you agree with Greg that this is a drought? This looks like pretty good green grass here.
No, in terms of Greg's holistic goal, this is the drought reserve, and that's fair enough. He's got good litter on the ground from his non-growing season. I've got no problem with that. In terms of the mosaic I see within the pasture, his densities could have been higher. So you see dark patches and lighter green patches. And Greg, through the years, when I was coming here on a yearly basis, has gone from light green to dark green and a little bit back to light green, and it depends on the year. So basically, what I'm saying in the spring, Greg is wanting those cattle with wings that come down from the sky and settle on the property to graze the excess grass until you start getting into midsummer, and then they must go back up again. And this is why on your biological calendar, you mark your date of calving to coincide with weaning in the time that you're wanting those cattle with wings to come down. So now you have a herd of young animals that are coming in, and your property can accommodate more livestock for a period of time. It enables you to put weight on those animals on spare grass instead of just leaving it and letting it do whatever you want or whatever it's going to do.
plan to start your high density grazing like in the spring? Like I've heard you talk about.
Now,
Well, I've heard you talk about not biting your grasses head off.
Well, you got to have something out there to graze. And the mistake that I used to make was, we went to the grazing schools. We went to the grazing schools that the university put on, and we were taught, when you had fescue 4 fingers high, you need to go in and take half of that off. Otherwise, it's going to get away and put a seed head on us. We did that. And we were very effective at it. The only problem was it doesn't work. Because in July, because I grazed the plant off so severely in the spring, it didn't have any roots underneath it. So when it got hot and dry, all my grass turned brown and dried up and fell on the ground. And I'll never go back to doing that. So I like to start out with a grass bed where I got something to graze, something I can get a tongue around. They're taking their lips and kind of graze like a horse and bite it off. You're going to be in trouble. You're gonna be in trouble.
Have you been able to have a sacrifice zone somewhere? Or?
Nope. Absolutely. We'll never, ever, ever do that.
Well, you hear about them doing it that way.
Get too big of cows. That's one of it. And you're not moving them fast enough.
Okay.
Here, folks, this is clay. This is clay out here. Talking about density in the wintertime. You got to watch it. I mean, even with those cows, they're 900,000 pound cows. If you get them in there real tight and you get a March monsoon overnight, they will wreck it. I mean, they will. They'll wreck it. You won't grow any grass there for a good while. Now, with the grass that does come back up through that eventually, it's going to be all right. But it takes a while to heal that area. If you got bigger cows, we used to graze bigger cows. We custom graze 1,400, 1,800 pound cows. Folks, I can take you to that farm where we got us a March monsoon. You can't ride a four-wheeler over it. That was 20 some years ago.
Too rough.
They plowed it. It looked like you took a root plow to it. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed you only have one wire. Do you do the same thing for your sheep?
Yes, we got the sheep broke to one wire, but it's 10 inches off the ground. And the ones that wouldn't stay in, we shot and ate them.
Is that 10 inches off the
Yep, yep.
or 10 inches off the top of the grass?
No, 10 inches off the ground. Yeah. It takes a while to train them to one wire. You start with 3, then you go to 2, and then you go to 1. And you got to be selective. You got to be the predator.
My neighbor was educating me yesterday, the old guy, nice guy.
Yep.
But he was saying, oh, Craig, you can't let your fescue get very tall because it'll get in between the animal's toes and cause a problem. That didn't sound right, but.
fescue is an endophyte.
Yeah, it's called fescue foot, but it doesn't. It's not caused by
No.
between the toes.
No, it's about grazing
Yeah.
the fescue in the seed. So, what is fescue telling you? If you graze me now, I'm going to kill your cattle. No, I'm serious. No animal.
It's working.
Is it still working?
Yeah, it's working.
Good. Okay. No animal intentionally kills itself. So if your animals are dying of poison and or whatever, you haven't taken notice of what is in the paddock. So basically the fescue says, don't graze me now. I need to be grazed in a vegetative stage. So with fescue, if you've got fescue for an interim, graze the paddock and bush hog your fescue to get it back into a vegetative stage. If you haven't got a bush hog, then put them at ultra high density to tread it in and onto the ground. So you're coming back to a vegetative stage and keep grazing. And that's the difference. One thing I want to mention here, if you look down, there are plenty of seedlings in the sward. An animal will not damage the seedling. It will graze the grass with the highest energy, which is hydrogen. That small seedling hasn't enough hydrogen, the animal will not graze it. Don't worry about it. Don't say I can't put cattle in that paddock because they're going to graze the seedlings. That is a lie.
Just had a quick question on the fescue because I have a lot of it. How high does it, will it get for that to be a problem, the poison issue? Oh, okay.
Excuse me.
I didn't hear the answer. What was the answer to his question?
This high.
Oh, that high.
One thing about fescue, folks, is keep diversity in it. I already found out that you can keep 25-30% clover stand. That helps offset the toxicity of the fescue. There's orchard grass in here. There's some weeds there, a yellow mustard, which is going to be history. There's bluegrass in here. The bluegrass is the white plant in here that's going to seed. It's got a seed head on it around your feet, folks. That's bluegrass. And it's all about diversity. You heard Ian talk about earlier. You don't want a monoculture. So the more species of grasses and legumes you can have in your pasture, throwing in a few weeds. I don't want one plant. The other thing, the university, I'll give them kudos on this. They did a similar study and they found out that the fescue, one of the more toxic parts of the fescue plant, is the first 2 inches above ground. So what's that telling you? Don't graze your fescue down to the ground. You will end up with fescue foot. Fescue foot, the way you can tell is on the back of the hoof, right here, right up the very back. It turns real red and spongy looking. And they'll put the foot on there, but they'll pick it up. It hurts. That's called fescue foot. And what the toxin does is it restricts blood flow to the extremities of the animal. That's what it does. So everybody's telling us to spray Kentucky 31. Get glyphosate, spray your whole farm, kill it. And then you want to go buy you some Max Q, which is about $6-7 a pound. You got to put down 20 pounds to the acre. Oh, and then you got to Roundup it twice. You got to spray it in the spring, you got to spray it again in the fall to get the ones that escaped, the ones that took it and came back. Then you get to put in your Max Q and pray you get a rain on it. The true cost of renovation from Kentucky 31 to Max Q is about $700 an acre. So be careful. Like Ian says, follow the money. Who's telling you to do this? The seed companies, the chemical companies, they want your money. Yep. So what have we done to manage it? I tell you what we've done to manage it. We sell the animals. We have an animal that can't take our fescue, get rid of them. Just sell them. Have them taken care of. Don't kill your farm and go broke. Makes too much common sense for people in universities to understand.
They don't get their check from animals.
Mark, you got a question?
This is for Ian, and you were talking about the yellow flowers bit. Is that pretty much all yellow flowers a sign of anaerobic? Or is that more like the buttercup?
The buttercup one is the one that you don't want.
Right.
It is anaerobic soil.
Right.
So recovery periods are going to be.
But like these mustards, they're not a sign.
Mustard is edible.
Or the Spanish nettle.
We don't have nettle.
Yes, sir.
Best way to take care of Johnson grass. Graze it. Just keep it down. I love Johnson grass.
Wonderful grass. In terms of stuffing rate per acre, nothing will be there.
The only time you got to be careful with Johnson grass is in an extreme drought where you haven't had a lot of rain. It can get nitrates in it, and it can be deadly to livestock.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Have you ever run a pasture renovator? Do you even believe in it?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's the
gathered that.
pasture innovators out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and dragging your pastures. I get that question on YouTube all the time. Greg, how many hours a day do you spend dragging your pastures? I'm like, what? I've never dragged a pasture in my life. I'm not going to, because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of fuel, and my time's precious. And we have earthworms. Let the soil biology take care of it. Now, if you're pouring your animals with Livamec, spring and fall, whether they need it or not, your manure paths are not going to break down. And that's because you've killed your dung beetles. The earthworms aren't real crazy about eating the manure. Folks, the most valuable asset coming out of that cow's butt is the manure. And you poison it? That's a good way to go broke. So don't do that. We were in Texas on a big farm, Mark Bader and I, and 500 cow-calf pairs. Every single manure pat was there for the last 3 years. And it covered up his farm. There wasn't any grass. It was all just manure pads that were not breaking down. So how did he fix it? He didn't. He put out protein tubs and went broke. So be careful. Don't do that. Yes, sir.
I've seen some people say that you can add like there's like the soap to the drinking water. Like, does that have the same effect on the soil?
I don't know. Shackley, you're talking about basic H?
I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Joel Stalker claimed.
Exactly. Yeah.
He won't. I mean, Shackley will not back that up. They say it's a cleaner. It's not a wormer. I tried it. I didn't see nothing. He claims it does. I don't know.
Yeah, so Greg, you got a lot of clover in this paddock.
Yep.
Is this pretty much like you have all across your whole farm?
Yeah, it's
And
a
how do
pretty
you
good representation. We're going to go to the Judy farm tomorrow. Ian pointed out something, and it's something I never really realized until Ian pointed it out. But where you have a gate, you get extreme density coming through that gate, and that's where you'll see your clover concentrations the highest. And on Judy farm tomorrow, you go through that gate up there, and you're going to see just probably 80% clover. But as you get away from the gate, then it gets back to that 35. Mark Bader, I asked him, Mark is one of the sharpest guys, I think Ian would agree to me, on animal health. Probably one of the sharpest ever born. And I asked Mark, first I said, Mark, what's the ideal legume content in a pasture? And every time he'd say 35, 40%. That's what he'd say.
Do you have any secret to maintain this?
Yep, don't overgraze it. And in the fall, we may go 60 to 70 days rest in the fall trying to grow some stockpile, and those clover plants all get a chance to put on a black seed head. That's the one that gives you your seed for next year. Folks, they can put on a seed head here in June. That seed's not worth that flip. It doesn't have the hard seed in it. It's that one in the fall that we don't put down clover seed anymore. I used to do it every year. I got a new farm in December. I went over and I put down 3 pounds. With the guy, he kind of wants to see some clover. He likes to hunt. So I'll do that on a lease farm. But on our personal farms, I've been putting clover seed down since I met Ian. That's been 2006.
I think the dry weather has really destroyed my clover seeds.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, you guys tried some fly prevention, redmond sea salt and vinegar.
Oh man, we went through the whole 9 yards on fly control. So we went to a Steve Campbell workshop, and Steve was talking about getting more sea salts and more minerals. And the way to do that is to make a brine. Take the sea salt, put it in a bag, and soak it down in your water. Make them drink it. When they get water to drink, make them drink that salt water. And we tried that. It was a wreck. We tried Redmonds. We tried garlic powder. We tried kelp. We tried vinegar, apple cider vinegar. And we tried baking soda. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money. We didn't see nothing. Didn't see nothing.
Results on your trials.
There wasn't any results. If you're hearing it right now, there was 0 results. Yeah. The birdhouses have helped probably more than anything. The other thing, folks, is the animals, the slick hair coats. Those things will be so slick here in another 2 weeks, it'll look like you put armor on. A slick-haired animal does not attract flies like one that doesn't shed. So an animal doesn't shed off its winter hair coat, we call those fly magnets. They're fly magnets. And flies go to that cow, and like Ian says, why are they on that cow? She stinks. Those cows are trying to kill, those flies are trying to kill that cow. That's what they're doing. Get rid of her. She's not going to make any money. She's got 1,500 flies sucking blood out of her. Why are you keeping her around for? Because her name's Petunia. I know. I ain't getting rid of Petunia.
Don't the moves reduce the numbers?
Absolutely, Craig. That's a good observation. So these cows are being moved twice a day, and a fly, when it hatches out of that manure pile, the larvae, I don't know who did this study. I don't know if they painted their wings when they came or whatever. They said a fly will live pretty much its entire life within 100 yards of that manure pile. So if you're moving forward, you're leaving that fly load behind you. And that's where your manure load's at. That's where the flies are going to be. So as you're moving forward, you're leaving a lot of that behind you. So we've got 450 tree soil houses up on this farm. well, on all the farms. And, you know, an adult pair of tree squirrels, they'll eat 8,000 flies a day. That's quite a few flies. Yes, sir.
How long do you keep them in the enclosure?
We're going to be moving them here probably in the next 10 minutes.
So what's
Like that's too big. I mean, we've done about half that size before, but you know, the boys made a shot at it.
like what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah, about 10 minutes. You know, they're not balling it. The inclusion zones that I've put in, they're screaming at you in 10 minutes. They're pissed. They want out of it.
Greg,
really do. Yep.
with sheep, what would you look for other than jumping the fence that it's time to move?
I'm watching for what the body language is for those sheep. When you go out there and they go into that paddock, they all put their heads down and they all start grazing within 10 to 12 feet of going through that gate, you limited them. That's not fair.
You didn't move them fast
Should have
enough.
moved them sooner. They almost go right down to their head. And I'll tell you, the bulls, we turned the bulls in, we had them over on the bull farm. We finally went to grazing green grass this spring. You know, winter stockpile, no winter. Those bulls went in the grass that was that tall. I mean, the first bull through the gate, like, he put on the brakes, and the ones behind him had to push him to get into the gate. They hit that green grass, and that was all they wanted to go. Right there. I like to see cows kind of go in and take a bite and just keep moving. They'll hit the back fence, and they'll graze back too. They'll drive, they'll follow you to Columbia.
Greg, are you following them up?
Same behavior?
What's that?
Do sheep tend to do that same behavior?
Yep.
Are you following these guys up with sheep?
They will be when they get over by the sheep farms. Yeah, we don't have sheep on this one.
Do you do
Yes, sir. Let me get him and then I'll get somebody over here. Yeah. Yeah, so that's all we give them is a tetanus shot and black leg. The sheep do not get a black leg shot. The only shot the sheep get would be the ram lambs that we castrate. 2 cc tetanus shot. We do use the little green bands. We band them. Sheep, they don't even know they've been castrated. The bulls, we get them up in the crowd over there. They get 5 cc tetanus shot one time a day. We band them. That's it. The black leg shot, that's a big one. Folks, I didn't do any black leg for 17 years. And, you know, I'm this expert grazer supposedly, and I don't have any bare soil on my ground. And bare soils can pick up black leg from. Well, we brought pigs on. We had a family here that was raising about 100 pasture pigs, and the pigs went in on the Judy farm and plowed every single patch of woods we had, turned it over. When those cows went in there, some of those yearlings picked up black leg. Lost 10 in 4 hours. Yeah. Made me a believer in giving them a $1.50 black leg shot real quick. You know, black leg, what it does, it kills your very best yearlings. It doesn't get the little weaker mouth, it gets your very best. Why is that?
They're the more aggressive eaters.
No. Better circulation, they're putting weight on faster, it hits them quicker. Boom. I'm telling you, we had a 1,000-pound steer lay down and die. Right in front of us. 1,000-pound steer. So 24 months and under, they're not protected. With sucking mama, they're protected, but they're not protected. So to me, a $1.50 shot, that's cheap. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, our bout with black leg.
Get you your phone. Go ahead.
Our bout with black leg 20 years ago was floodwaters.
Yep.
I mean, and it smacked us hard.
Yep. It's
And it was
nasty.
just a year that we didn't do it.
It's nasty. It kills them, folks. There's nothing you can give them. There's no shot you can give them. They're dead. They're dead. Yes, ma'am.
So do you not use a leader follower grazing pattern, like within the 2-day window the sheep are behind the cattle?
We try and get the sheep in as close as possible. The longer that time frame is, the worse, because the plants are starting to regrow and the sheep come in and eat.
Right.
Yeah. I would love to have a third. Ian's challenged me. Where is old Ian?
He's sitting down.
Isolated.
Good, I can talk.
answer a question for you.
I can talk about him.
Yeah, he's isolating.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
He said he wants to be close to the fence so he can answer a question if you have one for him.
I forgot what the question was. Where?
The flurd. You were talking about having a flurd.
So Ian's challenged me for 20, well, how long I've known him, since 2006. Greg, you need a flurd. I said, what do you mean? He said, sell your guard dogs and put the sheep in with the cows and go home and have a cold beer. I'm like, Ian, I said, I can't do that. Well, yeah, you can, just do it. He said, the smart sheep will stay with the cows and the dumb ones get eaten by coyotes. So he's just a very simplistic thinking guy like that. But I'm not saying he's wrong. It might work, but I'm not going to take that for a loss. That's what would happen. I mean, we'd probably lose about 90% of the year. Yeah. We would. I mean, there's coyotes. I promise you, there's coyotes out there right now looking at us. They're all over it. Lots of coyotes. Oh yeah, we sell a lot of guardian dogs. We don't raise them anymore. We've got people that produce dogs for us. We'll get them as weaned, and then we sell them as weaned puppies. And that's because we were selling trained dogs for a while, and it's just got to be, it's a wreck because you got to keep the dogs alone. You got to feed him for a year, and let's say you get him going real good. You take him and sell him to somebody, and they don't watch what they're doing with that dog. They can ruin him. They can ruin him really quick. And we'll talk more about that on the sheep. I'm not going to get into that today. I'm going to give a whole talk on guardian dogs. Yeah.
Is blackleg a one-time deal or every year?
Every year. Until they reach 2. Once they reach 2, forget about it. Every cow in there has never had a shot. They don't get any worm, no wormer, no nothing after they reach 2. And I'm going to protect them. I got a sizable investment right there, and I'm not going to let them die. I felt like I let those cattle down. That's what I did. I let them down. I let them die. That's on me. I'm not going to let that happen. It was the worst day in my whole livestock career, ever. I was sick in my stomach. I even threw up. I mean, it was bad. I can't explain it, folks, but it's the most sickening feeling in the world to watch a perfectly healthy animal fall down and die. You can't stop it.
How young can you give a blackleg shot? Or
you don't want to give it to them too young because they don't have a good enough immune system functioning. I think it's 5 to 7 months. You wouldn't want to do it much more than 4 or 5 months.
My veterinarian says 90 days.
90?
That's the absolute earliest.
90. You heard that? That would be 3 months.
And that's from a veterinarian.
Okay.
They'll also recommend that you give them a booster later on if you give one.
Yep. I don't do that, but yeah, they do recommend that. It's 4 to 5 weeks later, something like that. Yeah. I don't do a booster, but I've never lost another one to blackleg. I just give them one shot. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
You once said that different patterns of paddock